Some say this one here smells like outer space. Do I agree? Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances and this is a practical review of Marc-Antoine Barrois Ganymede. These reviews are for fragrances I have a lot of experience with, multiple wears and many situations, and are meant to give you a general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As per usual, I do a lot of research before buying fragrances these days, but I don't really like to go into details about notes and accords. I don't think that they benefit the end user as much as talking about the wear experience. Today we are talking about Ganymede. This one here is another hype beast that is very much loved by the community. When this came out, it got a huge amount of attention just because the scent profile is very unique. Some people say it smells like space, some people say it smells like futuristic technology. Some say that it's really challenging to wear, some others say that it's really easy to wear. I'm kind of in the middle ground. I do like this and I do think it's wearable and classic and timeless, but we'll cover that in a sec. This fragrance, according to our beloved definitions, falls into the designer fragrance, believe it or not. And this is where I have an issue with this whole definition thing. Marc-Antoine Barrois is actually a designer. I think they make clothes or something like that. But this fragrance smells really unique, really different. And to me, it falls into a niche category just because there's so much unique intent behind this. This is a statement piece that has been adopted widely and successfully, but it is ultimately a very strange fragrance. The perfumer for Ganymede is the infamous Quentin Biche. He has as much love as he has hate. He is very well known for a lot of perfumes recently, actually. He's from the Jean-Paul Gaultier Les Beaux Paradise Garden, to other stuff in there, to really weird stuff for Amouage, to this kind of thing. So his range of expertise is quite wide. I think that his defining feature is his use of synthetics. And this one here might be the most synthetic smelling fragrance that he put out, period. Synthetic, futuristic, modern, these are all adjectives that come to mind when smelling this. Synthetic being probably the most prominent one. This does not smell like natural at all. With most fragrances, you smell like citruses, you can smell vanilla, you can smell herbs. This basically is a concoction that has some natural ingredients, or might have some natural ingredients behind it, but ultimately projects like this really weird and modern and kind of like again, synthetic, not in a cheap way, but synthetic in a fabricated way. This is a very fabricated scent profile. It smells very artificial. But we'll cover that in more detail and say if it's a good or bad thing. But first, let's get into the presentation. The presentation for Ganymede is a straight 10 out of 10. From the black matte box that you get, covered with this golden sleeve, very unique, very elegant, very exclusive, to the bottle design. The bottle design is simple, classic, and timeless. From the top, it has a square profile. It's 100 ml, pretty big, not super heavy. The labeling is exceptionally good just because it's behind a lacquer, so I wish more fragrance brands would do this instead of having something stuck on that can peel off. The cap is firm. It's not super heavy, but it's metal. The atomizer is one of the better ones that I've tried ever. Let's give it a couple sprays. Yeah, very beautiful. Projects a lot, you can smell it a lot, but I didn't really hit my arm. Hang on. Okay. You even have a little embossed logo on top of the atomizer, so all in all, really good. The 100 ml retailed just for under $200 here, and I think it's pretty good value just because it's so unique, it's so well packaged, and it just gives a really good impression. I think it's well priced and it's worth the money. The expensive feeling of this, I think, comes from the fact that it's really hard to find at any kind of discount. I don't think this is even given to discounters. You have to buy it straight from the brand. So you always pay almost full price, and maybe that leaves a sour taste in your mouth. But in the end, this is actually cheaper than like other things like Amouages or Xerjoff or even other niche brands. Also, this thing is pretty potent, so just a few sprays go a long way. So 100 ml, I'm thinking will last you a very long time. On to the scent profile. This is a very discussed fragrance. It has a very polarizing scent profile, and it's definitely not for everyone. A lot of reviewers say that this smells like a spacecraft or like outer space. I think that they have a huge bias towards the name. After all, Ganymede is the biggest moon of Jupiter. That being said, the fragrance profile is weird, yes, and objectively artificial, but even describing it as like smelling like outer space is not really helpful to the end user. Smelling this fragrance, you'll realize why reading notes off Fragrantica almost makes zero sense. And yes, I'll take that to my grave. Because this is so unique, so different, that if you go off the notes and you read something like citrus, or maybe like immortelle or leather, you'll be completely just blown away by how unexpected this smells. This is a very difficult scent to describe, and you really have to like put it on and kind of analyze it. To me, this smells like air-conditioned air in a way, kind of like ultra-filtered, ultra-clean air. But it has this like ultra-clean air that comes out of an air conditioner, mainly from like an airplane. It has this weird metallic kind of like plasticky smell to it. That smell is one of the smells that I recall that makes me like nauseous in a car or in a bus. It's the thing that triggers like nausea or car sickness. Here it doesn't bother me as much, but it is definitely weird. Another thing that comes to mind when smelling this is like the cover, like a shiny cover of a magazine, like one of those covers that are very fingerprint prone, kind of like plasticky. Another thing that this smells like is like the inside of a new car in a way, not leathery, but it's just that ultra clean, like artificial, kind of like plastic evaporating smell. Another thing that this smells like is like the inside of a tennis ball tube. And it's a really strange thing because upon describing it, I really think that all these smells are not necessarily good smells. And they are definitely heavy and really off-putting. But this fragrance somehow manages to pull it off in a quite unique and elegant way. The fragrance itself does not transition hugely within the wear. And its 10+ hour longevity is pretty much the same thing. The opening though is where the fragrance is definitely more harsh and in a way abrasive. It has this syntheticness, this metallicness combined with some plastic. It's the most prominent in the opening. If I were to tie this to a note, I would say that it's the lilac leaf or the lilac, which is known for this kind of like watery aspect. I don't think that this is watery per se, but it gives it this like artificially clean feeling. It's really strange. On the dry down, this harshness tones down a little bit and you start getting a little bit more of a leathery aspect, I guess. There is some suede in here, but I wouldn't pinpoint it as leather. It's still some sort of a chemical. It smells very artificial, maybe like fake leather, but you wouldn't think of leather specifically. It's just, you lose that harshness from the metallicness and the fragrance gets a little bit more round. This is not a sweet fragrance whatsoever. There is zero sweetness in here. And it's such a strange flavor just because it's so unusual. In a way, the crazy bipolarness of this being unique and challenging, but at the same time very wearable, reminds me of another Quentin Biche product, which I'll be reviewing soon, by the way, which is Amouage Purpose. That one too is very straightforward with its imagery, but at the same time, I think it's very versatile and signature scent worthy. This too, I think, could be an amazing signature scent if you can pull this off. An interesting conversation needs to be had about the perception of a fragrance from the side of the wearer, which is informed, which bought this, and they're sort of like hyper analyzing it, and the perception of the same fragrance from an external person smelling you. And this is a strange one because from the perspective of the wearer, you might be overly preoccupied of how people perceive you. But I do think that if you wear this and just forget about it, no one will ever question it or even bat an eye. Yes, it does smell a little bit weird, but it doesn't smell off-putting at all. I wore this a lot, and this is pretty much my go-to office scent recently. And I don't know, maybe just people don't really approach me or anything, but no one even questioned it. I didn't even get any weird looks from this. Its synthetic nature makes it smell really, really clean, kind of like too clean in a way. I do think that this smell If it's right up your nose, it's a little weird, but if it kind of like is in a scent bubble around you, it just gives this like hyper squeaky clean impression of you. I think that the cool trick of this fragrance is that it makes you smell like you're not even trying. But at the same time, obviously, this is a very expensive specific scent. The versatility extends to the age. I think that this is great for any kind of age. You might want to be a little bit more put together in a way, maybe a little bit more mature. I don't really see this being worn in schools specifically, but I don't think this would smell out of place on a young person, just because it's so modern. This definitely does not scream grandpa, although even an older person could pull this off no problem whatsoever. Season-wise, I think that this again is super versatile. This is my go-to like summer office scent. It has this fizzy, fresh, very bitter kind of feeling. It reminds me a little bit of maybe like tonic water in a way, but it's clean. And although I wouldn't recommend overspraying this, if you do, it won't smell bad or it won't smell like dense or off-putting. In the winter, I'm not really sure. I really haven't worn this in the winter. It's quite clinical and cold, so I don't know how it will perform. But I think that this could be worn anyway. It's such a strange perfume. I don't even know how to classify it. Maybe you could classify it as like a modern day fougere. Something from the future. It definitely smells like something from the future. And as mentioned by other people, I think that this will end up being like a timeless classic. Is it groundbreaking, rewriting the rules of perfumery? I'm not really sure. But it's definitely super unique. It's definitely worth a sniff or two. And if you like it, it's uncommon enough that you'll smell like no one else around. Performance-wise, this fragrance is absolutely top-notch. The longevity on it is, as I said, 10 hours plus, a full day of work, no problem. The projection is good. You need to be careful on the sprays just because the metallicness could choke you out. I don't think it bothers people. I'm not sure about like the extent of the scent bubble, but it might choke you out just because it's like so unique. It could result in a fatiguing smell. This definitely sparked my curiosity in checking something else from the house. While I'm purchasing this, I got the sample of B683, and that is good, but I wasn't too impressed. But I'm really interested in like the other offerings. I want to know if they smell just as synthetic or just as daring. I want to know if the house has like a common DNA. And I think they're all perfumed by Quentin Biche as well. So who knows? I'm really happy to have this. I've been holding on to this bottle for a long time. To me, it was in a way love at first scent, just because I do applaud really weird and just different fragrances. But I do recommend you sample this first, just because you could love it or you could absolutely hate it. Overall, I think that this is a great fragrance for both people who value quality over quantity and have mainly like a more limited amount of fragrances, which are signature scents, or people who have a lot of fragrances and are searching for something truly different and unique. So is perfumery getting worse, as a lot of like vintage heads may be saying? I don't think so. I think that this one here is literally the manifestation of what can be done with modern compounds, modern synthetics, without necessarily going into the cheap realm. So please don't associate synthetics to like cheapness. Just try this out and you'll see for yourself. Again, you might love it or you might hate it, but it's still worth a try. Thank you again for watching. Thank you again for all your time and support. Please leave a comment, opinion, suggestion, or whatever you want down below. I always reply and I love interacting with you guys. Another review down, many more to come. If you like my content, if you like my takes, feel free to subscribe. It's always appreciated. Until next time, cheers.